and a lot of people send us a lot of wishes, love, and suggestions. So thank you so much.
Picture the ultimate devoted husband, the kind of guy who drops absolutely everything when his wife gets the worst medical news imaginable. We are talking about a devastating ALS diagnosis, the kind of news that stops your entire world from spinning. The clock is ticking, the medical bills are stacking up to the ceiling, and this guy takes to social media with tears in his eyes, begging the world to help save the love of his life. It sounds like a modern tragedy, right? It breaks your heart just thinking about it. Well, what if I told you that the tears were completely fake, the husband was hiding a dark secret, and the entire crowdfunding campaign was actually a sick, twisted business proposal? I was scrolling through TikTok late last night and fell down a massive rabbit hole about a couple named Jenny and Sumit. If you thought the relationship scammers on shows like 90 Day Fiancé were bad, you haven't seen anything yet. Before we dive into these leaked messages that are breaking the internet, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on these insane deep dives. To really understand how incredibly dark this situation gets, we have to look at the illusion Jenny and Sumit built online. From the outside looking in, their life seemed like the ultimate success story. If you looked at their Instagram grid before everything hit the fan, it was all smiling selfies, date nights, and that picture-perfect aesthetic that makes you think they have it all figured out. You know the exact type of couple I am talking about. They give off that energy of being unbreakable, which is exactly why reality TV fans and online sleuths are so drawn to them. We are conditioned by reality television to spot a scammer from a mile away. We watch couples argue over finances, we see the fake tears in confessionals, and we know when someone is just in it for a green card or a quick payout. But Sumit? Sumit bypassed every single red flag. He played the role of the quiet, supportive partner so flawlessly that absolutely nobody saw what was brewing beneath the surface. When the news of Jenny's illness first broke, it sent shockwaves through their community and across their social media following. Reports claim that she was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, commonly known as ALS. It is a ruthless condition that slowly takes away a person's ability to move, speak, and eventually breathe. It is a nightmare scenario for anyone, and the medical care required is astronomically expensive. This is where the story shifts from a heartbreaking medical journey into what rumors suggest is one of the most calculated psychological traps we have ever seen on the internet. Almost immediately after the diagnosis, Sumit went into overdrive. He did not step away from social media to privately care for his wife. Instead, he put a massive spotlight on their tragedy. He launched a fundraising campaign with a staggering goal of over $96,000. In his posts, he painted a picture of absolute desperation. He uploaded videos where he appeared totally exhausted, his voice cracking, talking about how he would do anything to keep Jenny comfortable and find alternative treatments. The footage was raw, it was emotional, and it was engineered to pull at the heartstrings of anyone who stumbled across it on their feed. And it worked beautifully. Money started pouring in from all over the world. Strangers who had never even met this couple were opening their wallets, deeply moved by the sight of a husband fighting so hard for his fading wife. It is the ultimate ironic hook, because he was building a monument to his own ego while setting himself up for the most spectacular self-own in internet history. But as the donation counter climbed higher and higher, crossing tens of thousands of dollars, something strange started happening in the background. It is a classic credibility dilemma. When you ask the internet for a life-changing amount of money, you are inviting the internet into your home. People started asking completely normal questions. They wanted updates on Jenny's treatments. They asked for names of the clinics they were looking into, and they wanted to know how the funds were being allocated. And instead of transparency, Sumit's behavior started to shift. There has been a lot of buzz online, with internet sleuths pointing out that his updates became incredibly vague. He would post long, emotional captions about how hard things were for him, but rarely provided any concrete medical updates about Jenny. The contradiction was glaring. He was publicly acting like a man drowning in medical debt, but behind closed doors, rumors suggest he was living a completely different reality. This brings us to the trap moment, the exact point where his carefully constructed house of cards began to wobble. While thousands of people believed they were funding life-saving care, whispers started circulating on TikTok and Instagram that the money was not going toward hospital bills at all. Anonymous accounts, claiming to be close to the couple, started dropping hints in comment sections. They claimed that Jenny was sitting at home, deteriorating, without any of the specialized care that the $96,000 was supposed to guarantee. Can you imagine the escalating stakes here? He is sitting on a mountain of cash. The entire internet is watching his every move, and the pressure is building. Reality TV has shown us time and time again that when someone gets handed a massive sum of money they didn't earn, their true character comes out immediately. And Sumit's true character was allegedly something straight out of a psychological thriller. According to these wild TikTok deep dives, Sumit wasn't just mismanaging the funds out of ignorance, he was executing a highly detailed, incredibly dark master plan. The rumors claim that he viewed his wife's terminal diagnosis not as a tragedy, but as a financial windfall, a lottery ticket. As the money piled up, his professional and financial stakes evolved. He didn't want to just pay off some bills. He allegedly wanted to use that specific $96,000 to dramatically expand his own small business. He was using his dying wife as a human billboard to crowdsource his own entrepreneurial dreams. But that wasn't even the whole story. Financial greed is one thing, but what happened next would shock everyone and take this narrative to a level of cruelty that is hard to even process. The internet is a very small place, and when you are running a scam this massive, you are bound to slip up. And Sumit slipped up in the worst way possible. A series of private messages and group chats allegedly leaked online, and the screenshots spread like absolute wildfire. This was the concrete knockout blow that destroyed his entire facade. In these supposedly leaked conversations, a completely different version of Sumit emerged. This wasn't the crying, desperate husband from the Instagram reels. This was a cold, calculated, and deeply cynical individual. Reports claim that in these chats, he explicitly detailed his intentions for the money, and not a single dime of it was earmarked for Jenny's comfort. Instead, he was allegedly bragging about how easy it was to manipulate the public. The behavioral flaw here is textbook narcissism mixed with profound psychopathy. He felt so untouchable, so incredibly smart for fooling everyone, that he couldn't resist bragging about it to the wrong people. The leaked information suggested a three-part plan that is so villainous it feels scripted. First, he would secure the bag, funneling the $96,000 into his business accounts under the guise of paying for experimental treatments that never existed. Second, and this is where it gets incredibly grim, he allegedly planned to deny Jenny any real medical intervention, essentially trapping her in her own failing body and letting nature take its course without any comfort or dignity. And the third part of the plan, the cherry on top of this horrible sundae, rumors suggest that once he had the money secured and the business booming, he was going to serve her divorce papers, kick her out of their home while she was entirely helpless, and use the remaining funds to start a brand new, luxurious life with another woman. When you hear a plan like that, it completely changes how you view everything he posted. Every single tear he shed on camera, every emotional plea for help, was supposedly just a performance to fund his future bachelor pad. It is the thematic hypocrisy at its absolute peak. You have an audience of thousands who gave up their hard-earned money out of pure empathy, completely unaware that they were actually financing a monster's escape plan. The failed emotional appeal is staggering in retrospect. People went back and rewatched his original fundraising videos, and once you know the alleged truth, his body language completely changes. You stop seeing a grieving husband, and you start seeing a predator counting his absolute goldmine. This level of betrayal goes so far beyond normal relationship drama. When we watch couples on reality shows lie about their age or hide secret debts, it is entertaining because the stakes are relatively low. But this was a man allegedly playing God with his wife's life, using her rapid physical decline as a timer for his own financial gain. The isolation he is about to experience when the internet turns on him is going to be biblical. But the craziest part of this entire saga is how the leak actually happened and what the authorities did when they finally stepped in to freeze the accounts. The details of these leaked group chats get even more specific, and the identity of the new woman he was allegedly planning to marry changes the entire context of this story. So, exactly how did a mastermind who orchestrated such a flawless public deception manage to get exposed so spectacularly? Well, if you have spent any time in the reality TV community, especially watching the absolute train wrecks on shows like 90 Day Fiancé, you know that the truth always has a funny way of clawing its way out. Villains on those shows always think they can outsmart the producers, outsmart the edit, and outsmart the viewers at home. But they always get caught by a hot mic, a forgotten text message, or a friend who decides they have finally had enough. And that is exactly what rumors suggest happened to Sumit. According to the deep dive videos I was watching on TikTok, the leak didn't come from a hacker or a jealous ex. It allegedly came from a disgruntled member of his own inner circle. A close friend, someone who had been sitting in this private group chat for months, watching Sumit's behavior shift from slightly questionable to downright monstrous. The story goes that the tipping point for this anonymous friend was a specific, sickening contrast between Sumit's public and private life that happened on a random Tuesday. Sumit had just uploaded a devastatingly sad video to his fundraising page. In it, he was literally sobbing, holding Jenny's frail hand, talking about how the disease was progressing and begging for just a few more donations to reach their goal for a supposed experimental clinic in Europe. The internet ate it up. Donations spiked massively within hours. But simultaneously, in that private group chat, reports claim Sumit dropped a screenshot of the rising GoFundMe balance, followed by a link to a high-end commercial real estate listing for his business, along with a message joking about his new investment capital. That was the concrete example, the absolute knockout blow that shattered the illusion. The behavioral flaw here is almost unbelievable, but it perfectly mirrors the narcissistic collapse we see in high-stakes reality television scammers. He couldn't just quietly take the money and play the part. His ego demanded that someone acknowledge how brilliant he was. He needed an audience for his deception. He thought the guys in his chat would slap him on the back and congratulate him on his hustle. Instead, that friend was so physically disgusted by the total lack of humanity that he quietly took screenshots of months' worth of messages. Every bragging text, every cruel joke about Jenny's declining mobility, every detailed blueprint of how he planned to funnel the cash, all of it was captured. And then, he dropped a nuclear bomb on Sumit's life by sending that entire folder of receipts to a massive drama channel on Instagram. The moment those screenshots hit the internet, the collective outrage was deafening. But there was one specific detail hidden in those texts that truly pushed the audience past the point of no return. It wasn't just about the business, it was about the new life he was allegedly financing. This brings us to the thematic hypocrisy of this entire saga. While thousands of empathetic strangers were typing out prayers and sending their hard-earned paychecks to support the sacred vow of in sickness and in health, Sumit was allegedly busy interviewing candidates for his next wife. Rumors have been swirling heavily that Sumit wasn't just planning to leave Jenny once he got the money. He already had his next relationship fully lined up. And the identity of this alleged other woman adds an entirely new, deeply disturbing layer to the psychological trap he had set. Speculation online claims she was a local aspiring influencer who he had met at a business networking event months before Jenny even got her ALS diagnosis. But here is the wildest part. Rumors suggest this woman had absolutely no idea he was married. Sumit had allegedly spun a massive web of lies, painting himself as a highly successful, single entrepreneur who was just waiting for the right woman to share his booming empire with. He was using the tragedy of his dying wife to artificially inflate his net worth so he could secure a younger, flashier partner. When you look back at his emotional pleas online, the failed emotional appeal hits you like a ton of bricks. We are so conditioned by emotional media to give people the benefit of the doubt. But the internet sleuths, the same kind of incredibly dedicated fans who can track down a reality star's hidden criminal record in 20 minutes, went into absolute overdrive. They didn't just read the leaked texts, they started auditing his entire life. They went back to his earliest fundraising videos and started analyzing his micro-expressions. People started pointing out that whenever he talked about Jenny's pain, his eyes were completely dry. The tears only seemed to flow when he talked about how hard the situation was for him. His exhaustion, his financial stress, his lost sleep. It was never actually about her. Even worse, amateur investigators online started digging into the so-called clinics he had mentioned in his updates. Do you want to know what they allegedly found? According to several viral investigative threads, one of the primary alternative medicine centers Sumit claimed he was wiring thousands of dollars to didn't even exist. Reports claim the address he subtly dropped in a live stream actually belonged to an empty commercial lot, the exact same lot he was trying to purchase to expand his own retail business. He was laundering the public's empathy. He was literally taking the love and goodwill meant to comfort a woman trapped in a failing body and turning it into brick and mortar for his own ego. The escalating stakes here are what make this story so addictive and terrifying. He wasn't just stealing money, he was stealing time. By actively denying Jenny the comfort and specialized care those funds could have provided, he was allegedly accelerating her decline. He was treating her illness not as a tragedy to be fought, but as a ticking clock on a lucrative payout. This is the credibility dilemma pushed to its absolute darkest extreme. When the public realizes they haven't just been scammed out of a few dollars, but have actively been made unwitting accomplices in a plot to abandon a dying woman, the backlash goes from standard internet cancellation to a demand for immediate legal retribution. And that is exactly what happened next. The isolation phase for Sumit began the second those investigative threads went viral. Imagine the sheer panic of waking up, checking your phone, and realizing that not only is your secret out, but millions of people are watching your entire life crumble in real time. Brands that had sponsored his business started dropping him instantly. Friends and family members who had supported him completely cut ties. The internet effectively formed a digital mob, tagging local authorities, financial fraud divisions, and the crowdfunding platforms themselves, demanding that they intervene before he could move a single dime of that $96,000 into an offshore account or a hidden LLC. But even with the walls closing in, Sumit's behavior remained completely erratic and deeply unsettling. Instead of logging off and calling a lawyer like a normal person caught in a lie, rumors suggest he tried to double down. But how he attempted to spin the narrative and the shocking intervention by law enforcement that finally brought his twisted reality crashing down is a twist no one saw coming. When a reality TV villain is backed into a corner, they never just put their hands up and admit defeat. They rely on the very same manipulation tactics that got them into power in the first place. And according to the wild speculation spreading across social media, Sumit's final attempt to save his crumbling empire was a masterclass in narcissistic delusion. Instead of going quiet, rumors suggest he went completely rogue and launched a frantic, unscripted live stream. If you have ever watched a 90-Day Fiancé tell-all episode where someone is caught in a massive lie, you know exactly what this looked like. Reports claim Sumit sat in front of the camera, completely abandoning the sad, grieving husband persona, and instead played the role of a persecuted victim. He allegedly looked dead into the lens and claimed that the leaked text messages were completely fabricated. He tried to spin a bizarre narrative that a group of jealous business competitors had used artificial intelligence to fake the group chats just to ruin his reputation. It is the ultimate isolation phase. He was completely disconnected from reality, assuming his audience was still gullible enough to believe that a vast high-tech conspiracy was targeting a random small business owner. But the internet wasn't buying it for a single second. The reality check hit him with the force of a freight train because the audience had already evolved. They weren't passive viewers anymore. They were active investigators. People immediately started screen recording his live stream, analyzing his defensive body language, the way his voice pitched up when he lied, and his inability to make actual eye contact with the camera. But what truly sealed his fate wasn't just the viewers rejecting his story, it was the sudden and explosive appearance of the alleged other woman. There is a lot of buzz online that while Sumit was live streaming his frantic denials, the aspiring influencer he had been secretly courting decided to clear her own name. According to internet gossip, she dropped a multi-part storytime video on TikTok that completely obliterated whatever was left of Sumit's credibility. In her alleged statement, she confirmed every single rumor. She claimed she was totally horrified to discover that the successful single entrepreneur she was dating was actually married, let alone publicly crowdsourcing funds for his terminally ill wife. She provided receipts, shared screenshots of his romantic messages to her, and publicly severed all ties with him. In a matter of hours, Sumit was entirely isolated. He lost his public supporters, he lost his secret escape plan, and he lost all control of the narrative. This brings us to the absolute point of no return. You can lie to the internet, and you can lie to your partners, but you cannot lie to financial institutions without facing massive repercussions. As the public outcry reached a boiling point, the crowdfunding platform where he had amassed the $96,000 officially stepped in. Reports claim their trust and safety team flagged the account for massive policy violations and immediately placed a hard freeze on every single penny. Sumit was entirely locked out. The fortune he had spent months scheming to steal, the money he had allegedly planned to use to build a shiny new life while his wife faded away in the background, was completely untouchable. But the consequences didn't stop at a frozen digital wallet. Rumors suggest that the sheer volume of reports from outraged donors forced local authorities to open an official inquiry. While we have to be careful with legal terminology, it has been heavily reported that Sumit is facing severe questioning regarding financial deception and the misuse of solicited charity funds. He thought he was orchestrating the perfect crime by exploiting a moral gray area, but he allegedly crossed the line into serious legal hot water. But amidst all this chaos, drama, and internet sleuthing, there was still a real human life hanging in the balance. What happened to Jenny? This is where the story finds a bittersweet, deeply emotional resolution. With Sumit's dark intentions completely exposed, reports claim that Jenny's actual extended family, who had previously been pushed away by Sumit's controlling behavior, finally had the leverage to intervene. Rumors suggest they rushed in, bypassed Sumit entirely, and took over Jenny's medical and legal proxy. They got her out of that house and into the care of real medical professionals who could actually provide the comfort and specialized attention she desperately needed. And the internet, the same chaotic space that had initially funded Sumit's alleged scam, rallied once again, but this time, they did it right. Legitimate advocates allegedly helped set up a verified, highly transparent trust directly controlled by Jenny's family, ensuring that the frozen funds would eventually be rerouted entirely to her care. When you step back and look at this entire saga, it leaves you with a deeply unsettling realization about the world we live in today. Sumit's story is the ultimate thematic hypocrisy. It forces us to confront how easily we can be manipulated by a glowing screen, a sad piano track, and a few performative tears. We want so badly to believe in the goodness of people, to believe that a husband would move heaven and earth to save his wife. Sumit weaponized that beautiful human empathy and tried to turn it into his own personal ATM. He represents the darkest possible side of internet culture, where clout and cash completely override basic human decency. It makes you wonder how many other picture-perfect couples on your feed are hiding a reality that is just as dark behind closed doors. This whole situation is a massive wake-up call for anyone who consumes reality TV or follows online personalities. It teaches us to look past the carefully curated grid, to question the motives behind the emotional oversharing, and to never blindly trust a narrative just because it pulls at our heartstrings. The truth is always messier, darker, and infinitely more complicated than the 60-second reels they want us to see. I want to know exactly what you guys think about this insane case. Do you think you would have spotted the red flags in Sumit's original videos, or would you have been fooled just like the rest of the internet? Drop your thoughts, theories, and opinions down in the comment section below, because I read every single one of them. And if you made it this far and love diving deep into the psychology behind these massive online scandals, make sure you smash that like button and hit subscribe. It really helps push the channel to more people who love uncovering the truth, and it ensures you will be the first to know when I drop the next massive deep dive. Until then, Keep your eyes open, trust your gut, and I will see you in the next one.